I'm just letting the computer updating a little bit. Hey guys, um, it took me a lot of guts to uh, go up on the air, but yeah, English isn't my first language, so if there's anybody here with me, please let me know, and I can check out the sound. Okay. So I wanted to talk today about boundaries, but I also want to say that if there's any question you would like to ask me right now, so I would like to hear it, because I don't want to talk and just spit out things without listening to you. So please let me know if you're here and you can hear me. I would be very happy, and if you can give me a sign. Okay. So I'm gonna start with a little bit of information about myself. My name is Sagit Katchka. I'm holistic healer. So one of the things that I like the most is to diagnose people through body ache, through body pain, into their soul problems. So not problem. It's the way that the body leads me to a place where I can see what the body pain is pointing at that we should work about. So if you have any questions or anything that you would like to know, please you can ask me after also. So this live is about boundaries. Boundaries is a subject that I relate to very closely, because I get to see in points in life that I get to tell people a lot of times where my boundaries set, or to tell myself most of the time my boundaries, so to set my boundaries. So I've decided that that's going to be the subject. I'm very excited, so you'll have to excuse me about my language, and if there's anything that's not understood, please write me. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is when the soul is getting inside our body. Our soul is endless, it's boundaryless. On the spiritual world, there's no time and there's no place, there's no boundaries. So when the soul, the two cells of the person who's getting created are coming inside the body and getting created in our mother's womb, the soul is getting inside a shape where she can create life inside the womb. The womb is giving the creativity and the cells a place with time and space with body in order to create life. And when we're watching, we want to learn about our nature through watching the universe and creation. So we know that if we're gonna take the baby out of the womb, God forbid, 40 weeks before, or just a little shorter, it's gonna damage its well-being. So we get to learn from it that everything in this world need boundaries, and need boundaries in two spaces, in two shifts. One is the element of time, and the other element is the element of place. So when I'm checking these two elements of time and place, it's gonna give me the biggest tool of how to check boundaries. So I'm gonna talk about it after. We're gonna talk in general about boundaries and limits of life, but that's the first area, the first environment that I wanted to share with you, that when I'm watching, I have these two indications of time and place. It's two indications that I'm taking in order to understand the perspective of boundaries. Look at babies, look at kids. When we are born, we are boundaryless. Look at kids, they're all over the place, right? They're playing everywhere. You can read and you can hear them and taste them and feel them everywhere. They can shout and be quiet, and they can go from one place to another. Sometimes you can't catch up with them, so you can really see that our nature is almost like boundaryless. It's curious. The soul is so curious to get to know the world. No one likes to, like, if I say to you boundaries, you're gonna think, oh my God, someone's gonna close me inside a little box and I can't move. Like, most of the time, people, when you say to them boundaries, they think negative thoughts. Maybe, I don't know, you can share with me, but boundaries has connotation of something that's limited. You can see kids, you can see us when we are born, that we like to be limitless, boundaryless, all over the place. The soul is free, so are we. We like to feel that this is our nature. Okay? So when I'm talking about how to run my boundaries and how to get into spaces of time and place in this world, I'm talking about my inner boundaries. I'm talking about the way I run my life and the way I would like to set up my life, because let's say that if I can manage my inner boundaries, the amount that I'm eating or the amount that I'm talking, everything needs boundaries in this world. Remember we spoke about it, that everything in this world needs boundaries. For example, we're going to take one of the most beautiful things in the world, love. Okay? If I will love the neighbor the same way that I love my husband, I didn't put love in boundaries, so I damaged one of the most beautiful things in the world. If I take a very good joke, very good one, and I take it out of place and time, and I go to a funeral and I tell the people they're a very good joke, very good one, but I took the frame of space and time of boundaries and I took it to a bad place, to a place where the connotation and the way it's gonna be translated from the out world in a way that's gonna hurt someone probably. So I'm giving you clues all the time about this perspective of place and time, because we're gonna check it all over the live video about the way I see things, and it's gonna give you just tools to, when you need to give boundaries to yourself or to others, we're gonna see how we can check ourselves and make sure that our way of seeing things is objective and not something that's our limiting beliefs showing us to do. When we are balanced, we should know how to get ourselves managed in our life. So if we've been looking at child's life, we see that he's boundaryless. Okay, he can lose his emotions between crying and laughing in 2 minutes. As long as we're growing up, we're learning our own boundaries, and we're learning how to manage them. So the baby, when he's waking up in the morning, he doesn't know anything, so his mom is opening the windows and there's light, so he's starting to learn the times. In the evening it's getting dark and he's getting a shower most of the time, so he's going to sleep. You get to know the building of time. But look at him, he lost his space of boundaries. But when we grow up and we're getting balanced, we get to manage our boundaries. We know how to lose control most of the time, and most of the time we know how to learn our own space and our own boundaries. So, but when we don't know how to manage our inner boundaries and our inner world, we're going to lose our patient, we're going to lose our mind, because we collected things and we didn't do to ourselves or to other person or to others boundaries, and we collected all kinds of weight on our body. And instead of saying things on time, you remember time and place, and instead of saying things on time, patiently, before we got angry, we're getting exploded. So most of the time when we're not managed, we can't manage our own inner world and our boundaries, we're getting to collect, like we want to be polite. The boundaries aren't clear. We want to be polite, so we won't tell anybody the way we feel because we don't want to hurt anybody. Then we're keeping silence and silence and silence, and when we're silent for too long, we're getting like a dynamite. We're exploding. So we're moving from the place where we want to be so very nice and so well imaged towards other people, and instead of saying things on time and on place, before we lose our space, before we lose our mind, we're losing it. That's the difference between a child that loves to lose his boundaries because he's very close to himself and no one can disturb him because they're very sweet, right? And between an adult that has experience during life and knows how to manage his boundaries and knows how to identify the way I feel and tell himself first of all. I have to tell myself first of all the way I feel and then take it out to the environment. So one of the first tools that I would like to talk about is to check out if someone's making me angry. For example, I'm giving showers to my kids and I feel that I'm starting to lose my patience after a long day. The moment that I start to feel this inconvenient, I should put myself aside and say, okay, this is the time, before it's going to be too late, before I'm going to reach the point where I'm losing it. A long, long time before this minute, I'm going to ask them very nicely and very firmly that I want them to hurry up or whatever. Like giving boundaries on time before we're going to lose it is the biggest tool that I can give, like to start to recognize where's your boundaries. And everyone got their own boundaries, right? Like one person can live in a 100-meter house and it's very good for him, and the other person can live in 50 meters and it's huge for him and everything's all right. So do you have any questions, guys? Do you have any questions? Okay. So I'm just getting a little more confidence here. We're getting to learn from this picture that I lost my plot line. That boundaries, instead of limiting us, gives us sense of confidence. That when we know our boundaries and when we know how to manage our own lives, we live better life with much better self-confidence and much better quality. So if you have any questions or anything you would like to say, 3 questions. I said 15 minutes on the spot. You can write me down and I can answer any questions. Anybody wants to ask me a question about any subject? Okay. Would you like to write a question? Anybody? Nobody, okay. So that's it for today, guys. That's my life about boundaries. Hope you could heard me well and hope that I gave you some tools. And if you have any questions, of course, you feel free to ask me wherever on any platform. And I wish you a very lovely evening or morning. And bye. Thank you so much for being with me. Thank you. Love you. Just a second. Maybe I can't see the comments. No, I can see the comments. Okay.